the feeling of belonging. After 50 years, people will come up and they'll tell me their story about putting on that UGG boot for the first time, and it just blows me away every single time.
Alrighty, Brian, so good to meet you. My name is Nini. I'm an entrepreneur from Brooklyn, New York. I've also been a huge fan of the UGG brand since I was in high school. It's really amazing to be able to sit here and chat it up with you a little bit. And yeah, I'm excited to learn more about you.
Well, I'm Brian Smith, and I'm best known as the founder of that great UGG brand.
Why did you decide to start the UGG brand?
I grew up in Australia and spent 10 years graduating as a chartered accountant and quit the same day because I really didn't like it. I came to America in the late 70s looking for the next big thing to bring back to Australia because all the trends were coming out of California. I was surfing up at Malibu and I was pulling on my sheepskin boots and I just went, oh my God.
The aha moment.
There's no sheepskin boots in America. So I started spending the next 20 years building the brand and getting it ready for the US market.
Okay, so Brian, now I want to know, where did you start the UGG brand?
Well, the UGG brand started in Southern California, but when I went out there, I went to about 150 shoe stores trying to sell the product, and I got shut out by every single one of them. I had to sort of default back to, well, how come all my friends at Malibu think they're the best? And it's because they'd worn them and they knew them. So I basically just went straight into, well, there's got to be surf shops that I can go talk to. And that was how the UGG brand really got started. I didn't intend to start it in surf shops, but I ended up doing it.
Happened.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people need to realize that you can have a whole bunch of no's.
Yep.
But then you get that one yes, or like, you just keep going until you get what you need and get what you're looking for, and not to just take a no and leave it there. Because if you would have just stopped, we wouldn't be here right now.
I felt like stopping at first, but I knew that it wasn't the product's fault, it was my fault. So what am I doing wrong? And that pretty much drove my attitude all the way through the business for 20 years. As far as product development goes, I was always going for simpler, cleaner. It was just a labor of love, really. And I would bounce it off people. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? I've got a couple of props here. Let me show you exactly. That's the original boot, and this is pretty much the standard short classic today.
Right.
We still call it the classic because this was the classic.
classic.
So that part hasn't changed. Yeah. So you can see the night and day. This one here, you can see all this is glue, and there's glue around the soling, and you can see the stitching of the sheepskins. So to get rid of that, we came up with a binding, which made it really clean. And we were very meticulous about keeping the skins. Like, look how perfect that is. See how the heel collapses? Well, by putting on a heel counter, that's a leather strip, but underneath is a plastic cup, and that then prevents the heel from sagging. By far the most important thing was the sole itself. This sole will outlast the use of this boot, believe me.
So who did you have in mind originally as the UGG consumer?
Boy, everybody. It was my passion to get a pair of UGG boots on everybody in America, but I had no idea that Americans just didn't understand sheepskin. Americans think, oh, it's too hot, it's too prickly, we can't get them dirty, we need mud, we need rubber, all of these types of products. And so what I thought would be a really easy transition turned out to be a very difficult education process for American consumers.
It's funny you say that. I love how you originally created it for everyone. People are now wearing it on runways in Paris.
Amazing, yeah.
But then, you have me, I'm from like the inner city, Brooklyn, New York, and we wear it and, we have fun with it. We'll throw trinkets on them and hand paint them, and it's become such a staple in the community. So it's really amazing that you designed this shoe for everyone, and it literally is, in fact, for everyone.
Yeah.
So you mentioned going to so many different retailers trying to sell, and you got a lot of no's.
Lots of no's,
right?
Yeah.
So is there anything that you changed to get people to want to be a part of it?
I remember being in a surf shop one day and this girl walked in and she walked over to the sheepskin boots and she picked up a pair and she obviously liked them, but she was asking the salesperson on the floor, you know, what are these like? Well, I don't really know, you know. And I came up with what I called this 6-pair stocking plan. For every store that would put at least 6 pairs of shoes out, I would give a free pair to the store manager. Months later, I was in a different store and a guy walked over and he's putting, you know, feeling the boots. So what are these like? Oh man, they're great. I'm wearing them myself, you know. They're the best things in the world. And this salesman just like flipped him so fast into a pair of UGG boots. And so when I realized the power of that 6-pair stocking plan, it became the fundamental process that we used in every single store after that. It was probably the best marketing campaign UGG ever did. Thank God the product itself was so good that it just worked.
Speaks for itself. What was some of your most memorable moments while you were building the brand?
Oh my God, there were so many. But I think the most important one was when I understood what advertising and marketing was all about. We were really big in surf, but we wanted to show a crossover to the snow. So we just, we would have these guys like with overcoats and everything. And we said, okay, now, and they would take their coats off and run off and sit in the chairs for like 2 minutes while they're snapping photos. For 4 years, I'd been advertising in surfing magazines and action sports magazines, which was my target market. But I was using models and posing them on the beach with the perfect hair and clothing and the big, tall UGG boots. The memorable moment was when I was having a beer in the surf shop. The owner and I were talking, I was explaining this advertising problem, and he just said, oh, shut up, Brian. And he called out back to all these little 12, 13-year-old grommets who store their surfboards in the shop, and he said, hey, you guys, what do you think of UGG? And every one of them just went, have you seen those ads, those models? They can't surf. Okay. And like instantly I realized, oh my God, I'm sending the wrong message to my target market. And when I saw my ads through their eyes, it was just embarrassing. They were so bad. And so I quickly regrouped and called a buddy who was running a surf team, young guys. And I said, Pete, do you have any kids who are about to turn pro? And he gave me 2, and so I just went surfing with them at Trestles and Black's Beach here in San Diego. I just selected some photos that I took with my own camera, walking to and from the beach. And that was probably one of the biggest turning points in the advertising and marketing, which directly related to sales.
I love that. I mean, when people are looking at an advertisement and they feel like they can see themselves in it,
you hit it on the head.
That's when you're gonna get that brand loyalty.
Authenticity is absolutely critical. I envisioned these 2 walks and deliberately chose them because I figured if every little kid in America would see these ads, they would just die to be in this photograph with these young surfers, you know, and it worked. It was phenomenal.
So that was a really pivotal moment for you.
Right.
So I would love to know how that authenticity helped to drive the brand forward.
Sure. Well, it made this huge dent in California. And it got to be such a fad, you know, that the kids were going, Mom, all the cool kids are wearing UGG boots at school, you know, I need a pair for myself. And Mom's got the money, right? So it drove this trend of being cool. But then there was like, what about the rest of the country? And so I figured out snowboarding had just started and skiing was dying and snowboarding was going. So I found young snowboarders and I advertised with them in snowboarding magazines, and that took it off all through all the ski areas. And then back east I was having a problem because, you know, there's not really much snowboarding and they don't surf. So I was like, how do I get to them? And I was with a sporting goods retailer trying to open the store, and I said, well, what do the kids here do for sport in Pennsylvania? And he just rolled his eyes and he goes, well, they play hockey. When I started to research, I went, oh my God, the hockey market's twice the size of surfing market. And so I started advertising in a kids magazine in Minneapolis, Let's Play Hockey, you know, and drove this youth, you know, movement again.
Brian, how did you approach new designs in that first 15 to 20 years of creation?
I had a broad overview of what I wanted the product to be, which was casual comfort. I didn't really focus on fashion or style because everybody thought UGG boots were ugly at the time, right? With the marketing, I was able to change the perception of how they looked.
So after you had the neutrals, I would love to know what was the next color wave that came.
Well, keep in mind that I had started to get competitors now, and they would come to the trade shows, they'd see all the product I had on my booth, and I knew that next season they're going to be out there with the same thing.
On your tail.
So I had to think, okay, what improvements can I make to the construction? Also, what colors can I change? And what new styles can I bring in? So black was the very first additional color.
The black.
And that went really, really well. And then I started bringing in some sort of fashion colors, some like a raspberry color and a green color, like we call a forest green. So our mantra was, let's get out front first and then run faster.
And let them follow.
And every year at the trade show, we'd have a completely new line because I knew out on all the other booths is what they knocked off from my last year's line.
Exactly.
Right? And they're still doing that 40 years later.
Exactly.
UGG is leading the pack.
Just knowing that you guys made so many tweaks for it to like now be what it is today is amazing. Like it clearly is different.
It's an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at you. Can pretend you're 2 years old, 4 years old, 8 years old, 12. Yeah. That's how products evolve, just like humans, yeah.
So I'd like to know, what were some turning points in the late 80s that made it to where UGG just took off?
I wasn't getting into the department stores or the mall stores, and I felt like such a failure. But I was in a retail, one of the biggest retailers who was headquartered in Chicago, gave the best sales pitch ever. And the buyer just looked back and says, "Brian, why are you here?" And I went, "Well, because I'm trying to get an order for the California stores." And he goes, "Don't you get it? We're the elephants. We don't move till the mice are running around under our feet, you know?" The minute he said it, I knew exactly what he meant. Until all the specialty stores were just blowing it out and couldn't get it, the big department stores, they weren't going to take the risk. In that mid-'80s period was the final time when the surfing market, the snowboarding market, the hockey market, they were all taking off at the same time, and we're getting really big traction. The mums are walking the malls going, "Hey, do you have UGG boots?" And so suddenly the department stores found the brand.
Right, there was a high demand.
There's the push where you push it into the stores, and there's the pull when the retailers are going, "What the hell's going on?" And so that was the first time I started to feel the pull in the late 80s. And we started getting really good orders from all of the big department stores because the specialty stores had blown it out. I look back now and there's no way I could have accelerated that. It had to go through this normal evolution of growth and spreading through the specialty stores.
A lot of celebrities obviously have been spotted wearing the UGG boots.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I can remember being on a plane coming back from somewhere back east, and I was sitting next to a girl who was reading all these different fashion magazines. And I was taken by the fact that the clothing that the models or the actresses or actors were wearing was listed in the magazine. You know, when I got home, I called up a really good buddy who knew that industry. And I said, how do they get out there? And he says, "Oh, just try the stylists." And the penny dropped, and I researched it, and I found a mailing list of stylists in Hollywood. So I sent a letter out and said, "If you want a free pair of UGG boots, give me a call." And about 40 of them did. And so I just found out their size and preference, and I sent a pair of UGG boots out to everybody. Literally within 3 months, we were watching TV and someone would be on a show wearing UGG boots. And it was a beautiful story about me going from not even knowing they existed to becoming a very, very valuable part, because I used to open up the magazine all the time and there'd be some model, some actress, wearing UGG boots. It was so cool.
So you sold the brand to Deckers Outdoor Corporation in 1995.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that decision.
I knew Doug Otto, who was the founder of Deckers, because he had a little triple-decker sandal, flip-flop, that he was selling to surf shops, and I was trying to sell UGG boots. So we would meet each other in and out of surf shops for years and years and years. His company died every winter, Our company died every summer, and so by putting them together, you could have a real, same sales force, same warehouse, same, admins. It was a brilliant move for both of us.
What has been at the core of the UGG brand from the beginning?
I think without a doubt, it's the feeling that people get when they have the UGG boots. The feeling of belonging. It's an expensive product, but I'm going to buy it and I'm going to wear it, and it makes you feel fantastic. Everybody who wanted or dreams a pair of Uggs, when they arrive in the box, they know already what they're going to get. And the fact that people will go out of their way to tell me about it. After 50 years, will come up and they'll tell me their story about putting on that UGG boot for the first time, and it just blows me away every single time. A brand is what people think of you. You started with such credibility at the root. As it grows, it maintains that image of high quality and reliability. You always know exactly what you're going to get every time you buy a proper UGG boot. The feeling that's attached to that brand is like nothing I've ever seen. UGG is probably one of the most powerful brands in the world when it comes back to the authenticity and the feeling. And it's so powerful that that brand still exists at that level today.